Welcome back, everyone. This is the second video in my series about the laws in Codex Oera Linda. The laws are contained in the first part of Codex Oera Linda called the Book of the Adela Followers. Today I'll be talking about the laws for the Burgs. Pittsburgh, Jonesboro, Spartanburg. I could continue the list of American towns and cities for quite a while. Add in Europe, and the list of places with some form of Burg in the name would make a 2-hour video on its own. The concept of the Burg in Friesland was something very specific. Fortified installations within a ring wall which housed the maidens and the burgmaids and represented the central pillar of authority where judicial and legislative matters were resolved and various policy decisions were made. A detailed physical description is given in chapter 13h by Apollonia, daughter of Adela and Opel, who was a maiden and elected as burgmaid of Liudgarda at age 30.
The tower has 6 sides and is 3 times 30 feet high, flat on top. A small observatory sits thereon, from which one watches the stars. On each side of the tower there is a hall, 300 feet long, 3 times 7 feet wide, and equally high, except for the roof, which is vaulted. Surrounding the burg is a dike, and around it a moat 3 times 7 feet deep, 3 times 12 feet wide. Looking down from the tower, one sees the shape of the Yule wheel.
Each region had a central burg to manage local affairs, and the Volksmother, who sat at Tesland, the largest and most important of all the burgs, along with her maidens, watched over the eternal flame kindled by Freya herself. This lamp, called by the still enigmatic name Foddik in the Freya's language, was more than just a symbol of life and freedom to the people of Friesland. It was deemed to be vital to the survival of each burg and the people in the care thereof. Freya's final words on earth were,
"Then the lamp that I have lit for you shall never be extinguished. Its light will forever illuminate your minds, and you shall remain as free from domination as your sweet rivers are free from the brine of the endless sea."
The lamp, or Foddik, burned with an eternal flame, or Logha. Now, if we accept that the Freya's language far predates Latin, Logha would be the word from which our modern words logos and logic are derived. The unceasing attention to this logos was essential to upholding the complex Freya moral code based thereon. When discussing laws, a first interesting question to ask is, where do the laws come from? In other words, who makes the laws? In the case of the Freya, the answer is a representative body of the people comprising commons and lords, each having a separate and specific scope of voting rights or privilege. Of course, such terms are familiar to anyone living under various forms of parliamentary democracy, as well as the more evolved constitutional republic model. But the introduction of a potential law in the Freya culture differed quite drastically from the modern system, as explained by the very first Volksmother, Vesta.
All rules that endure for 1 EU, that is 100 years, with the bearer and his wheel, may, on the advice of the mother and by common consent, be written on the walls of the burgs. Once they have been written upon the walls, they are Ewa, laws, and it is our duty to honor them. Should necessity or coercion come to give us rules in conflict with our laws and customs, then people must do as demanded. But when the troubles have passed, then one must always return to the old ways. That is Freya's will, and so must it be of all her children.
Ewa, as a concept of equal justice, has been explained in other videos. But note that Ewa also means everlasting. This, and the long process by which a rule must persist for a full eeu, 100 years, before it can be considered for adoption as a law, highlights the fundamental importance of and the care put into this ancient legislative process. notwithstanding the outward similarities to modern bicameral systems. Please like and subscribe if you haven't, so more people can learn about the existence of Codex Oera Linda and join in the conversation. The Burg laws regulate the material amenities of the burghs, the roles of appointees, and their manner of election, as well as various duties of the Burg inhabitants. We will see that the principle of government by and for the people, as well as certain limitations on power, were understood by the Freias to be the bedrock upon which a free society is built. Chapter 3a begins. These are the laws for the burghs. 1. When a burg is built somewhere, its lamp must be kindled from the original flame at Tesland, and that may only be done by the folksmother. 2. Every folksmother shall choose her own maidens, as shall the maids who serve as mothers at the other burghs. 3. The folksmother at Tesland may choose her successor, but should she die without having done so, the election shall take place at a general assembly where all communities deliberate together. These first 3 of 24 total Burg laws not only define the importance of the lamp and codify the standing of Tesland as the capital, but also set forth the independence of the mothers in terms of appointing their inner circle and successors. Next, we will see the roles of the maidens specified, along with the obligation of chastity. 4. The folksmother at Tesland may have 21 maidens and 7 spindle girls, so that there might always be 7 to attend the lamp, day and night. The maids who serve as mothers at the other burghs shall have just as many. 5. If a maiden wishes to wed, she must announce it to her burgmother and immediately return to the people before she pollutes the light with her unchaste breath. The following 2 items relate to further roles within the burg and the specifics of their term of office. 6. To the folksmother and each burgmaid, 21 lords shall be assigned, 7 old sages, 7 old warriors, and 7 old sea campaigners. 7. Of these, 3 out of every 7 shall retire each year, and they shall not be succeeded by relatives nearer than the 4th degree. 2 things are apparent here, namely that these officers are assigned rather than selected by the mothers. We may at this point assume that this is done by common consent at a general assembly. Also, we see a feature that will repeat in other laws we will look at later, whereby strict term limits are set, and reappointment or re-election is limited by family ties as well. Obviously, the Freya people wished to avoid entrenchment and political dynasticism. To continue, 8. Each burg may have 300 young defenders. 9. For this service, they must learn Freya's tes and the laws. From the sages, they must learn wisdom. From the old warriors, the art of war. And from the sea kings, the skills required to undertake distant voyages. 10. Every year, 100 of these defenders shall return home, but if any are no longer able to stand or walk, they may remain at the burg for the rest of their lives. 11. At the selection of the defenders, none from the burg shall have a vote, neither reeves nor other chiefs, but only the common folk. Here again we see term limits, as well as a contingency for the care of wounded defenders. Some of the roles of the lords, assigned according to the previous items of law, are also more narrowly defined, namely passing on their skills and experience to the defenders, who, we shall see in a later video in this series, may also earn the title of lord for their service. As well, further limits are set on the power of officials to determine the makeup of the power structure, putting this responsibility instead in the hands of the people. 12. The folksmother at Tesland shall be given 3 times 7 solid messengers, with 3 times 12 speedy horses. The other burgmaids shall each have 3 messengers with 7 horses. 13. Each burg shall also have 50 husbandmen, chosen by the folk, but for that task only those who are not able and sturdy enough for defense or seafaring may be put forward. 14. Every burg must be self-sufficient and sustained by its surrounding farmland and by the share it earns from the market. Here, additional resources are permitted for the mothers, but note that no power of taxation is granted for the support of the growing burg retinue. Rather, it is stipulated that the burgs must maintain their ability to govern through the very resources granted. Moving on, item 15 stands alone as defining the civic duty to serve if elected, also specifying that the lords derive their right to vote from their willingness to serve. 15. If someone is chosen to serve at a burg and refuses, he can never become lord, and thus will have no right to vote. If he is already lord, he shall lose the honor. The final 9 items of burg law define the mother's role as arbiters and executive of the provinces under their care. Additional technical roles within the governing structure, such as scribe and healer, are also introduced. 16. If someone seeks counsel from the mother or from a burgmaid, he must present himself to the scribe, who will bring him to the burgmaster. He must also go to the letza, that is the healer, who must determine whether he is possessed of evil passions. If he is judged sound, he must lay aside his arms, and 7 defenders will bring him to the mother. 17. If the affair concerns only one territory, at least 3 envoys must come. If it regards the whole of Freya's land, 21 additional witnesses must be present. This is so in order that no suspicion may arise, nor tricks be played. Several rules designed to combat corruption, or the appearance of corruption, are given here, followed now by more such rules, and ending with the punishments imposed for any corrupt actions perpetrated despite these safeguards. 18. Upon all matters, the folksmother must have the say, and ensure that her children, that is, Freya's folk, retain as equal a share in the wealth as possible. This is her highest duty, and it is the duty of us all to help her in performing it. 19. If she is called upon to decide any judicial question between a reeve and the community, and she finds merit in both sides, she must decide in favor of the community, so that the matter is settled, and since it is better that one man should suffer injustice than many. 20. If someone comes for counsel and the mother knows what advice to give, she must do so without delay. If she does not at once know the answer to his question, she may let him wait 7 days. If she then still does not know, he must leave, and he may not object, since receiving no counsel is better than receiving bad counsel. And now the punishments. 21. If a mother has given bad advice out of ill will, she must be killed or driven from the land, stark naked and empty-handed. 22. If her burg lords are accomplices, the same must be done with them. And finally, a limit on the penalties is included to ensure fair execution of the law. 23. If her guilt is doubtful or is only suspected, it must be considered and debated, if needs be, for 21 weeks. If only half the votes are against her, she must be declared not guilty. If 2/3 are against her, the case shall be delayed for 1 full year. If the votes are then the same, she may be declared guilty, but not killed. 24. If there are some among the 1/3 who are so convinced of her innocence that they wish to follow her, they may do so with all their floatable and portable goods, and no one shall despise them for it, for the majority may just as well be mistaken as the minority. Join me for part 3 of this series on the laws of Codex Oera Linda, where we'll take a closer look at the enlightened set of general laws governing the common welfare and commerce within Freya's land.